Hi, and welcome to another episode of Ask Elly Intuitive Insights and your questions answered. It's been exactly a year since the last podcast, and I am so excited to come back and revisit the podcast and create a new platform. And my guest today is Natalie Mirasola, who is a health and mindset coach. And before Natalie says hello to you all, I do want to share a little bit about my own personal journey. I used to be thin many, many decades ago. And then through circumstances and age, I packed on a good 45, maybe sometimes at one point could be 60 pounds during this time. And I did everything that I could. I think I've been on every single diet that exists, no joke. And then it was in 2020, it was about 2020 in July. I was carrying my grandson up a dune and I could hardly breathe, and I realized, oh God, this has got to change. I want to be around for these kids. I need to be able to breathe. I need to be able to be physically active. I cannot be carrying all this weight for my heart. It is awful. So I made a choice to start, but I hadn't really committed. And that is when in January of 2021, my girlfriend said to me, look no further. I have someone for you. My girlfriend is an MD at a New York hospital. And she said, stop, Elly, just stop, call Natalie and do whatever Natalie tells you and stop resisting. And so today, my guest is my health coach, my health and mindset coach. And many of you also know me as Mind Person. So, yeah, we also need coaches, also, no matter who we are. So, welcome, 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 Natalie, to the podcast. And please share a little bit with our listeners how you got on this journey and where you're at now.
Sure. I'm so excited to be here with you today, Elly. Thank you so much for having me on. So, a little backstory of me is, I have my master's degree in behavioral science, and I have worked for many years in the behavioral field, specifically with children and young adults. And I practiced that for 15 years, but I knew that there was something more, right? I was seeking more. I was done with that area of my life, and I think we all should be looking for the next thing to level up in our life, right? Generally never feeling like you're finished, right? And that's how I felt in those moments. So bring us back there, about 15 years I practiced, and then I was seeking health and wellness myself, always into that world for a very, very long time. And I actually took my health to the next level about 5 years ago. And it was in that creation of creating my future self that I was able to not only master the health component, but the mindset component as well, which came so easily to me because it's something I practiced for so long. And then I started to really dive into helping others in that area. And here we are today, 5 years later. I've worked with thousands and thousands of clients, not only working towards their future self, their future mindset, but also getting them to really feel comfort in their skin and be on this earth for much longer while healing the inside.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And you just touched upon something that is really important to me. In my work with clients, I create something called quantum leaping. And one of the biggest things about quantum leaping is the created future self. And that includes not just what we're doing on the planet and who we are going to become and what service we're going to do. It's also the mind body component. And so I would love to address some of that with you, because we know scientifically that when we alter the way that we look on the outside, things change for us on the inside. And it goes vice versa. The moment that we begin changing on the inside, we start changing on the outside. So can you talk a little bit about that, and especially even talk about some of our subconscious and conscious beliefs? We had a little pre-conversation a few moments ago, and
Absolutely, absolutely. So, the mind comes first in anything that we do in life. And what I generally love to start my clients off with an activity in the morning is creating a list of many I am statements, right? So if we start um, acting in the future and leading in the now, right? It's a great saying. Generally, what happens is we can start to subconsciously start showing up as that future self, right? So generally, if you sit down each morning and you take out a notepad and you write 5 I am statements: I am healthy, I am in control, I am heart healthy, I have energy. That is your future self. Picture her, picture him, envision it. What are they wearing? Who's surrounding them? What season is it? Really, really create your future self. And then wake up each morning with those I am statements. And they could be different each day, adding on to who that future self is, but start acting as your future self now, right? So, specifically, another example, if you want to become a marathon runner in life, right? So, if you start identifying now as that marathon runner, even if you haven't ran half a mile yet, and practice that, you'll start showing up as that runner, right? So the subconscious is a really wild thing that I love to work through with my clients. Another area of that is a lot of clients that come to me, generally they've self-sabotaged their entire life. Maybe they've been obese or morbidly overweight for some time, or subconsciously that's their identity, right? And they've also paired that with something. So, overweight and funny, overweight and a giver, overweight and a yes person. That is their identity. So, subconsciously, when you identify that for most of your adult life, or for many years, when you come to me and I try to take you and place you into your future self,
yeah.
we do
And
work. We do work. Yeah.
this is brilliant. I mean, this is it's really the basic truth of everything. I mean, we even know from science that athletes who envision themselves can perform after tests that were done. They perform the same as if they'd actually done it, and it was only done through visualization, and their scores are just as high. But you just said two things that I thought were very interesting, that I admit I had not heard it before. And one of those things was pairing the overweight with a subconscious belief, and then to identify that. I mean, yeah, sure, I always knew, yeah, there are things that are subconsciously blocking us. Only now that you said it in those words, I was able to identify, wow, I have a pairing. I created a pairing, and I created my pairing right after my divorce. And so that was the beginning of the process of overweight. And it was overweight equals safe.
Mhm.
And that was a really big pairing. And
Yeah.
true confession right now. Oh boy, true confessions. I had been able to maintain the weight that I had said I wanted to be for, I'm going to say close to 10 months. And then there was an incident in my life. Something happened which, triggered some old subconscious belief. And it was just, put on those pounds again. And so I did. I put on the extra 10 pounds because it was overweight and safe. And so then I was like, okay, we got to stop this. All right, we got to stop this. This is not the future self. This is not who I want to be right now. So,
Yeah.
um,
It's almost
great. Yeah, really great, Natalie. Thank you for that.
yeah, it's almost sometimes a painful experience, and it's good to bring up those emotions because yeah, we're almost killing off that identity. And that is very difficult for a lot. It's an emotional process. But if we're able to take the old self and, you know, put it where it needs to go, and that's away forever, we can grow into our future self. We can create a new identity.
Oh, absolutely. I have to share this too, because I mean, you have countless success stories. And so only I want to, I don't know your success stories, but I do know one success story of someone that I introduced to you. And she came in, she must have been about what, 60, 65 pounds overweight. I don't recall. And through working with you, not only was she able to release all of that weight, but she stepped into a new profession. She stepped into into who she was and more. And so now not only is she an inspiration to other people in terms of her health and taking on her health and her wellness, she's also an inspiration to people about taking on what is possible when we step into new careers and new paths, so that we can transcend the old and make those differences and make the ripple effects to help other people. And you were so pivotal in that transformation for her.
Yes, yes. And it could it brings a tear to my eye, because I'm blessed to watch this happen each and every day with so many different clients, right? But what started to happen as we work through the mindset, as we dug deeper alongside getting the body healthy and creating new micro habits that eventually become embedded in you by the time that you're done, we're able to now take the old self, put it away on a shelf, and create a new identity. So the new identity is her future self, now her actual self, and she's able to walk through her life with confidence, with conviction, with a new identity. And that played an integral part in her releasing the old self job, maybe where her old identity lived, and stepping into her actual self now in her new position, in her a completely different career, and thriving. So
Yeah.
it's an incredible circle of life there, right? With the old
Yeah.
self, the future self, and the actual self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about what happens. What do you do when people come and they have these plateaus and they're not moving forward, and what advice can you give them, because you've got a solid nutritional plan for them? So what happens then?
Well, generally we have to look at the habits, right? So when we first start any health program, any nutrition program, generally our pain point is so high, right? And we're willing to do anything to change that, whether the pain point's coming from a bad script of health from the doctor, or the pain point is from an emotional standpoint. We all have pain points that we walk into this with, and it's the pain points that actually drives you forward. It's not motivation. Motivation happens once you get going and you start seeing that scale in your body change and you starting to get healthy. That's when the motivation starts. But generally what happens is, as you start to get healthy and we're working together and we're reducing that body fat percentage, getting that, weight, fat around your heart off, and changing habits, the pain point starts to decrease, right? So it's wild. You got to pay attention there. I see it every day. And as the pain point starts to decrease, the old self tries to creep back in slowly, right? And tries to pull you back to the other direction. And all of a sudden, these old habits that didn't serve you start to find you again. So it's within those, and I love when that happens, because nobody's journey needs to be perfect. It's within those moments that we learn more about ourselves to be able to catapult forward into our future self. So there's no such thing as a plateau, right? So it's either your old self is coming back and habits are tripping, and we're not really focused on it, or we don't want to pay attention to it, or we don't want to identify it, or your body fat percentage and your weight is decreasing, right? So maybe let's just say somebody was calorie counting or macro counting. As your body fat starts to decrease, you don't need the same amount of macros that you once needed when you were at a higher percentage, right? So I guess my advice to whoever is listening today is, you got to look at two things. You got to look at, is your old self coming back? Are you doing little things that you don't even realize that were so habitual in your past that you're subconsciously just doing them? Or two, have you lost a good amount of weight at this point, 10, 20 pounds? And do you need to go back and look at your macros and your caloric intake to, really see if you're still in a deficit of where you need to go?
Brilliant. I love the idea of the old self coming back, because that just doesn't apply to weight and health. It's everything, especially when I personally also am working with new clients, and they're in a position where now their future self is taking on new experiences, and the old self sabotages them through illness or breaking an ankle, or I mean, you've seen it all, right? I'm sure you've seen the same thing. So someone will uh get sick, or they'll hurt themselves physically so that it takes them out of their game. I'm sure you've seen it all.
Anything will take you out of your game, right? And it's again within the mindset work that you're doing that's actually going to take you, away from that old self. I mean, there's no emotions attached to habits, right? Think about it. Like, think about the automatic habit of when someone calls your name, you look over your shoulder, right? That's an automatic habit. There's no emotion attached to that. When you're pulling out of your driveway and you're putting your car in reverse and looking over your shoulder to make sure you're not hitting anything, like, automatic. That's a habit you've created over many years of your life, right? They're automatic. There's no emotion attached to that. So what we work with, or I work with my clients, is creating new automatic habits, right? So eventually you create your habits, and then your habits create you. They just become a part of you.
I love that. Yeah, awesome. Hey, this is changing the subject a little bit, but somebody recently said to me, "Oh, Ellie, I'm so excited. It's eating season." And like, what? What's eating season? And oh, that's between Thanksgiving and New Year's. It's eating season. And I thought, oh God, I got to talk to Natalie about eating season. Isn't it always eating season?
Right. And that's, again, just to touch on that, but this is what I teach my clients, right? We need to change the mindset of we're on this earth to eat, to live. We shouldn't be living to eat, right? So eating season to me is living to eat, and all the things. But again, that is a subconscious thought, or somewhere somebody had told them that, or they've been taught that through many decades of their life, maybe through heritage and family and traditions, that it's eating season. So again, what happens is you start to create automatic habits, and maybe they pop up starting in November, that it's eating season. So subconsciously, when you think it's eating season, you're just going to go off the rails, right? And how are we getting you back off? So again, self-control, and really changing that thought process to say, no matter if it's a Tuesday, a holiday, a birthday, the summer, a vacation, right? There's always going to be something in our lives. And yes, beautiful. Go enjoy it, go celebrate it. But let's focus more on our environment, the people that we're there to celebrate with, versus, using food as a tool to fill all emotions in our lives.
Yeah, beautiful. Oh, Natalie, anything that we're missing over here? I know that you've got tons of topics to talk about, especially um, with your background in behavioral sciences and behavior modification. So, what do you do to keep your clients on track?
So generally what I do to keep them on track is community, right? So community is so partnership, community coaching, it's so important. And right, like, as you started this call, I love that you said that, even a coach needs a coach. Everybody needs somebody in life. Nobody should be going at anything alone, right? Think of athletes, they have coaches, students, they have teachers, right? If you're in entrepreneurship, you have a mentor, that's a coach. So everyone is generally paired with someone that's very successful in a goal that they set for themselves, because you're able to have that accountability component, right? And what does accountability do for you? Accountability gives you a little more oomph to say, I'm not only doing this for me, I'm doing this for my coach and the team, and I'm going to wake up and I'm going to work on those micro habits. But generally, if you it takes about 60 days to create a new habit.
Mm.
So science says, right? So if you're able to, print out a calendar for yourself and write down 3 new habits that you want to create in your health or your life, whether that be business, mindset, health, write those down and try to track that for the next 60 days, and never allowing your old self to come back, and really waking up as your future self and working on those I guarantee you by the end of the 60 days they will be so embedded in you, they will be a part of you, and you will do no differently because it's something that you've consistently done, right? Consistency is the
Mhm.
igniter of all momentum.
Right. And for people then who do not have this, some people are really great at being consistent and they're just naturally able to follow through. And other people they struggle with consistency, and then they struggle with, so they need, and I say this, they need support.
Mhm.
And in order to have that future self come out, they've got to get past, this is my, again, they've got to get over themselves and their belief system that, oh, I've got to do it alone, or I can't get help, or it's too expensive and I don't have the time, it's the money, the time. I mean, there's always an excuse, and then they look to put it off to a someday or a one day, which we know is not on the calendar. Ha ha, that joke. And so what do you tell people when they come to you and they're, uh, with their, in business we call it their objections, so they want it, but they're at the same time, they're they have all these multiple objections. So just really quickly, let's spend a minute on that, because
Love
yeah.
it, Ellie. Great questions today. This is an awesome call. So, generally objections come from, they're either fear-based, or, it's again releasing the old self, right? So a lot of times I'll see somebody who's not consistent but placing blame elsewhere, right? So it's the blame game. It was my
Mm,
environment, it was the food pushers, it was the alcohol pushers, it was a holiday, it was a Tuesday, right? So instead of taking radical responsibility for their choices or their outcomes, they're placing blame elsewhere, because if they place blame elsewhere and they're failing, they're not the failure, the circumstances are the failure, right? So one thing I teach is taking radical responsibility and going into any environment advocating for yourself and your needs, right? So no, I'm okay, I'm going to pass on that. Or actually showing up and leading from the front, because you'd be surprised, you could probably influence an entire room with your new habits, right? So that's a beautiful thing.
mm, mhm,
Generally, consistency is lack of consistency is a roadblock in, I think, the belief subconsciously that they're actually going to get to where they want to go,
mm,
right? So
mhm,
again, if you can't envision your future self, or you're coming into any program with, I need a quick fix, and they're just focused on that quick 10 pounds, all of your old self is going to start coming back, right? Instead of envisioning the future self and how that person's going to act. And as far as like hiring a coach in your life, and thinking about the financial end of things, right? I always go back to think about women, right? They go get their hair done, they go get their nails done, they go maybe go buy a new sweater, when all of that is secondary to your, all that means nothing if we're not in good health standing, right? How's the heart, how's the fat around your heart, how are you moving around, how's your energy, how's your quality of life? So I love to take people and really awaken them to, we shouldn't be sleepwalking through life, we need to be living life. And
mhm,
looking at any financial, I think, investment in hiring a coach in any area of your life, of what is the outcome you're looking to achieve, and what's the price tag you're putting elsewhere to try to fill, I think, that need of self worthiness, when
mhm.
really it starts with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So beautiful. Um, wow, there's a lot here for people to process and to think about. And so if they want to reach out, where can they find you? And of course, they'll find you on the link that I'm going to put on under the podcast. Only where can they find you?
I'm on so many different platforms. You can find me on Instagram. I'm under at Health Yourself with Nat. On Facebook, you can just research Natalie Mirasola. And I'm also on TikTok. under at Health Yourself with Nat. Trying to think of other platforms I'm on. I'm everywhere. I have a blog going right now, 3boysandadog.net, really focused on, the chaos of being a mama of three and winning at that chaos.
Oh,
So,
I
you know,
love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Love to share that also. So if you'll send that to me, that blog,
absolutely,
and I can share it with people who read my newsletter also.
absolutely. I'd love
Awesome.
that.
Yeah, awesome. Natalie, I know this was a short call, only I also know that you're an extremely busy woman and that this call, these few minutes, were so packed with powerful and important information that the rest would just be talk and words. So I'm going to encourage people to go back and listen to this again and again and take the nuggets from this and then start running with it. And for mindset coaching to begin, whether it's physical or mental, please reach out to Natalie for health and wellness. And of course, you can always reach out to me for other things. All right, Natalie, I love you. I am so thankful and appreciative that you were here with me today. Is there anything that you want to share before I say bye? We say bye?
Yeah, listen, Ellie, I agree. This has been a jam-packed call. It's been fun. I'd love to do this again. It's a passion of mine to just talk about this all day, right? So, yeah, I mean, encourage them to listen to it again, pull out the golden nuggets that really, hit your heart and maybe start there, as far as, some takeaways that you want to start implementing in your own life. And, I'd love to do this again.
We will. We will. This is the beginning of a few, many. All right. I love you, Natalie. You've been
Love
very
to know.
important in my life and still are. So many, many blessings. Happy Thanksgiving and much love to you and the family.
Talk soon.
Okay.